Zedong. Imagine America 130 years ago. They were advancing in technology and building steam engines. They were making new weapons and new shoe factories that mass produce. Now imagine China 130 years ago. They might have been sagging behind a little bit. China was kind of crumbling. The Qing dynasty was being humiliated by the Europeans and the Japanese by losing their wars. China was crumbling apart. And then on the countryside, one child was born. His name is Mao. In Mao's childhood, he was born on December 26, 1893, and he was in a decent family on the countryside farming. His dad was really good at farming, but Mao did not like farming. He thought it wasted time and energy. He liked learning oftenly and would read books, often about politics. He wanted to leave his family, and so he did. He left at an early age of 16 and went on very low money to learn. Most of his money went on books and studying materials, and very little went to his food. He lived in a very small apartment, and when he got older, he joined a rebellion party in groups and went out to cut people's queues. People's queues are basically, back then, the Qing dynasty. Some people honor them by growing kind of like long ponytails, and a lot of people had it on. But then when Mao encouraged people to take it off, they didn't, so at night they ambushed them with scissors in hand. They cut off their queues. So, in his teenage years, he studied even harder. He got an okay job as a librarian. He read newspapers and devoured them. He heard about a name called Karl Marx. He was a famous philosopher. He joined another rebel army, but quit after 6 months when there was no more action. A few days later, Mao heard of the philosopher Karl Marx even more. He liked Karl Marx's thoughts. He thought of them as communism. Karl Marx's thoughts explained that in order for a community to be completely fair, the peasants will override and then take down the landlords and the rich people and spread out the wealth equally, so everyone has the same amount of everything. Mao liked this idea. He thought this is what China needed at this time. He stayed like that for a few years and started studying. When he got older, Mao got a job as a really good principal. He had great jobs and sometimes leads protests against some school rules because he's always kind of a rebel. A few months later, Mao got married. He liked this life until he saw a better opportunity to lead a revolution party committee. Mao heard about communism, which Marx had invented, and wanted China to be a communism country. When the USA heard about this, they were mad. The United States of America wanted China to be completely a democracy country. They supported the dynasty and gave them helmets, guns, and all sorts of things for war. Mao attacked the rich landlords on the countryside and freed peasants so they can join the army if they want. Whenever their enemy rests, Mao attacks. Whenever they withdraw, they advance. They advance, Mao withdraws. When Mao finally won the war, he had over 900,000 peasants on his side. He took all the good and all the gold that the Qing dynasty had and was valued over $300 million in US currency. When Mao finally won the war, he expected an economic leap. By this time, he was a little bit of a tyranny because he was sacrificing something to get up for the greater good. But some people may not want to sacrifice their lives and working very hard in plants. He made metal factories and expected the factories to melt tons and tons of steel each week. Each person only gets 6 hours of sleep each 2 days. They were expected to work until they dropped. But the advantage was, if they were still alive at the end, the Danwei would take care of them when they were old. So if they work here for most of their youth, then when they're very old and they can't do anything, they will be taking care of them and bringing food and like buying them clothes and items. Whenever Mao saw excessive amounts of food, he sold them to the nearby countries. The peasants sometimes starved, and sometimes it resulted in cannibalism, rarely. Otherwise, the country made a great leap. Everything was really good after that, and Mao made a really great step in history. Thank you for listening, Luke.